Hello, it's Michael, and welcome to week 8. I know it can actually be a little confusing because, as when we met earlier, spoiler alert, I love to just give away what we're attempting to do. And I, however, just really appreciate you guys trying and applying these ideas and techniques. And the reason I do these recaps is sometimes everyone's not in sync, but all of that's intentional. I hope you all begin to start to notice that you all are actually trying to solve the same problem. And that's because, in a way, we're still at this information stage. That's this thing here, this pyramid, right? So all we know so far is that you have to have data. There's no choice. Everything has to become from a database. And in terms of putting things on a screen, we used to spend a lot of our time really thinking about that, but I'll just let you know the reason we're not spending a lot of time in this kind of design mode is that most designs are really just themes. Actually, if you've ever worked with a CMS before, or a content management system, I happen to use WordPress a lot. If you go to WordPress, all they really want to know is what are the words, okay? What are the words? What's in the menu, etc. And that's actually, I'm hinting that's what you guys should be doing. But I did notice a couple of things, a couple of hints. Spoiler alert again, we are using these techniques so that we can use them and literally use them to analyze another service. So all the services that you're going to explore for your final project are all going to use these techniques. The nice thing is they're all incredibly successful at a lot of these. Yet, I will let you know they all didn't start out that way. And so you'll do a little research to see the struggle they had, much like the struggle you had. They had to figure this out as they went along. So, spoilers, right? I do think one thing may have been missed, and this could be on me. So please let me know if it was confusing. If we go back to week 6, you were looking at navigation styles, and I'll just let you know these navigation styles, you can just look them up right here, are not you can't make up your own. Sorry, you have to use these, and I think you have. I've seen some breadcrumbs. I haven't seen many menus, however, and I don't know that I've seen a secondary menu like you select one thing and you select another. These sort of we've seen drop downs. Drop downs are pretty antiquated at this point because for mainly that they hide things. And hiding things usually isn't good. So look back here because I do believe, let me just take a look. We've seen some cards, but in terms of the way we're displaying our information, I think Apple's a pretty good example, right? There's usually something up here, and when you click on it, right, you see secondary things. This is really, really common. Please use it. That's all. Like you shouldn't work hard here to invent any new sort of navigation. And there's only other one thing I want to get into. If we get back here to this week, in terms of wireframes. One thing about wireframes, especially with me, is there's no point in not using real words. So no placeholders. Just don't use any sort of squiggles or anything. I don't really mind fidelity, but fidelity is actually there just to not spend a lot of time fussing with it. Although I think you're going to find that these sort of templates are pretty easy to find in Figma. I'm sure they also have an AI thing. I haven't checked, but they can make you a standard looking web page, right? But when it comes to what are the words shown, how does somebody know that the thing that you got to is because you somehow got here? So I keep talking about journeys, and because that wasn't the main focus this week, it is going to be more of a focus for your final deliverable. One other thing, please read the rubric. I kind of make it clear what I'm looking for. So if anyone asks me, is this what you're looking for? I'm just going to say it's pretty clear in the rubric. And if not, please ask me, or you can just always post something and say, I think this is what you meant. Again, this is a dialogue. I'm not here. This is not meant to be tricky. We are still in information. Remember, this is still the lowest level of stuff, which is a shame because you wish you were up here, but trust me, we're going to get there next week. How do you get higher up? Because this is what people really want. This is just, hey, it's out there. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of talk about a happy path. So many of you have already started this happy path. Like, how do I get here? But I think you did it because you couldn't display your full record unless you thought about a long series of selections. And yes, it's going to be challenging to figure out how to make all of these words fit on the screen and all of these things be selectable. And it's going to be really tempting to use drop downs where you could have 100 things in it. But and that's fine. Actually, it's all, don't worry about it. This is really just to explore the space and to try to understand what an IA's job is to show people flow. And there's one more shorthand. This is also easy to do, whether it's in Figma or on a piece of paper. I really like this design because then you can start to see from one page if someone has a possibility of selecting 50 different things. The goal here is to write those 50 things down and then to figure out what happens when any of them are clicked. Now, ouch, right? That's a lot of writing to do. So just think it through. How can you minimize the amount of selections that people need to make? And I know it's not going to be obvious because you've got a lot of data and a lot of possibilities. But just like getting lost, the whole point of week one is to say, hey, people get lost. You have to come up with signage. You have to come up with ways of explaining things. And I think many of you have. Again, your work in this has been really good. Make sure to, by the way, learn from and copy from others. Again, there's no here the flow diagram is just, hey, you're going to need, I think in the assignment, it's 6 states. So just figure out like what the state is. I will tell you, one of the hopes for me is that you get to a detail, which is always good. People tend to want a detail, and then you leave that detail. And if the way you leave your detail is to close a window or use the back button, I would say that's the real challenge of IAs is how to keep people from being being stuck in a dead end, right? So think it through. It's just, again, this is a thought process. All of these techniques, by the way, even wireframing, are really going to be useful in your final. I'm just going to let you know when you diagnose or look at a particular service, to make a wireframe of that service and to kind of figure out where the data goes is really powerful. But as I said, if you're wondering, spoiler alert, I think I actually make this thing way too big. So I'll redo this. Oh, here's the flow diagrams, and here is wireframes. Yeah, so this is the idea. The flow diagram shouldn't take up that much room, and this is, so I'm going to move this over. Someone's in here early, and it's Utar. Okay, cool. I'll just move you over here. Cool, we'll move you over here. Whoop, there we go. Yeah, so that's week, whoops, this week as well. The flow diagram is just to read this, but really, the goal of this whole assignment, the reason why it's 20 points is it has so many components in it. So all you're really hopefully going to do is, whether you did it on paper, paste that into Figma. It's fine. I just want to link to Figma and I'll just go through and hopefully it's all on one canvas. I'm just trying to look and check the boxes that you did a wireframe, which is all about words. Then you did a detail view, which is all about words. Where did the words go? Did it actually reflect your HTML? Ooh, yeah, you'd have to look back and see, right? Like, that's the thing. It's so easy to draw and so hard to translate that into hierarchies, right? Boxes or groups and headings. That was the goal back then. Um, did you figure out how to use navigation and words that are bigger purposed, right? You can't have 500 words on the page and just expect people, or select 10, here's 10 words, and then from that, I'll give you 10 more and 10 more. You see what I mean? You don't want to have that flow. And of course, as I said, this is the fun of this profession, is to try to minimize those things, but you're always going to have compromise. So again, all spoilers, just to let you know, we're going to transition into talking about the bigger picture next week. There's no particular deliverables here, but that's when you're going to choose your service that you're going to analyze. And I don't think we are, but we're brushing up against a holiday. So we'll talk later about kind of the pace to work on that paper, and that's also going to be a process. But as I said, just try to get this one done. You're all doing great. Just participate early, of course, And hopefully, again, spoiler alert, that these videos help. Thanks.